All right. So we're asked to talk about this topic that's really, I think, more a discussion. It's not so much a lecture from me. I can give some of my thoughts on it, and then we can see what other people's thoughts are. But on the idea of building community, and of course, the first thing when you look at such a topic is, well, why do we have to build community? Like, that sounds like a big job. And I'm like, we're good, we're fine, we're Noahides. I mean, that's so cool. Why do we have to work on this whole community thing? I think an underlying IBUS pain of a Noahide, or challenge of a Noahide, if that's a better word for it, is loneliness. Now, especially for people that don't have the support of a strong family unit. Meaning some Noahides are blessed with a spouse and with children, and are all on the same page, and are all walking this road, journeying this journey together. And many are absolutely alone. Absolutely alone. It's interesting, this yesterday's Torah portion, which was a portion of Noah. So it's really the Flagstaff portion of the Noahide. It was about Noah. And there's a verse they're talking about during the destruction, as the quiet that background noise for you guys. As the whole world is being washed away. Now the flood rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The world was underwater for over a year, meaning it was underwater for a complete solar year, which is 11 days longer than a lunar year. So for a complete solar year, the world was underwater, and all of habitation came washed away. Mankind, the animal kingdoms, the vegetation, even the earth itself. A certain amount of the topsoil got washed away because it had all become so corrupted and so evil. So here's Noah, and it says about him in the verse, Vayishaer ach Noach. And there remained, and Rashi explains that word means alone, Noah. Noah was alone. Now, why do we need to know this? I mean, we understand this from the storyline. He's alone. It's him and there's everything in the ark. Everything else is gone. But the verse is saying this. There are many levels of meaning. But on one of the levels of meaning that Rashi, the classical commentator, explains, the verse is forcing us to recognize, or focusing us on, probably a better way to phrase it, focusing us on Noah's pain. He was alone. The world was destroyed. It was gone. It was him and whoever's in the boat. Him and the animals and birds and insects and members of the family that were in the ark. Nothing else survived. Noah was alone, completely alone. And he felt that loneliness. It was a very deep pain. It was a tremendous emotional pain thinking of a world destroyed. All of his relatives, everyone in the world was some way or another related to him, Third cousin, fourth cousin, fifth cousin, second cousin, first cousin, I mean, like they're just 10 generations away from Adam and Eve, And everyone was gone. Noah was alone. And we're told that expresses his tremendous pain, the pain he was feeling at this moment. So in a miniature way, every Noahide taps into a bit of that pain of Noah, that pain of loneliness. Again, if your spouse is on board, if you have children on board, if you have grandchildren on board, obviously it's still lonely because there's a world out there that's not on your page, but it's less. But then again, some people don't have any of that. And there's a lot of loneliness, which is a deep pain. Another point, so that's one dimension of why it really is important to build community. Another point in building community is that we can see from the Jewish world that community is so integral to creating a God-oriented life. In the Jewish world, so much revolves around community. The synagogues, the schools, the kosher stores, the kosher services, Meaning if someone wants to be a completely God-fearing Jew, they can't go live on an island. It doesn't work. They can't go to some, they have a lot of money. They don't want to live among the plebeians. They want to go to some very, very, very affluent suburb with all the other people as rich as them. It doesn't work. You can't do it. You just can't do it. You basically have to live within basically the same area, at least walking distance of all your other, cohorts. It just doesn't work otherwise. You need to walk distance of a synagogue. And what, you're going to drive an hour for your kids to go to school? So you have to be in a reasonable distance to the schools, and you have to get your kosher food, and you want to be in a place where there's a this and a this and a this and all of the amenities we need of a religious life. So all of those rules sort of force Orthodox, religious, God-fearing Jews to live together. Again, it's not forbidden to live separately. It would just be very, 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 very inconvenient. It would be very difficult. That's why it just generally doesn't happen. Obviously, every once in a while, you'll have some random person that's, for whatever reason, had to follow his work and he's going alone. It's very difficult for him to live a fully religious life that way. Or you have a Chabad representative who goes on self-sacrifice and goes where no religious man is to help Jews and non-Jews come closer to God. So we're going on self-sacrifice then. But someone who's just looking for a normal life sticks with other God-fearing Orthodox Jews, because we need that. That's integral to living a God-oriented life, is being within a community of such people. Now, obviously, you could say a Noachide doesn't have those same needs in a sense, but in theory, as I was preparing, I was imagining that. Imagine if there could be a Noachide synagogue. Imagine a Noachide school. That would be amazing. Now, again, is it going to happen? That's the idea of building community. To start, obviously a synagogue is easier to create than a school, but a Noachide synagogue, a Noachide school, very, very powerful vision. A third point of a community is that community is a support system. Meaning, like I live in Chicago, the network of what we call social service organizations created by Orthodox Jews to help Orthodox Jews is unbelievable. 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 There's a very strong value, very strong cultural value of taking care of each other, of viewing everyone as your family, and therefore the kindness. And unfortunately, there's been a number of tragedies in our community over the past few months, since the summer, a number of tragedies, and not of mine personally, but of people that I'm close to, people in my synagogue. And I've really seen firsthand how the community, the broad community, people that didn't know each other before the tragedy, but just part of the same broad community, are so supportive, so there for each other, so helpful. So imagine again, Noachides having that, having this network of organizations just to help each other, which is just, again, just is such a support. Now, another point in terms of the need for the community, so besides, which I think is almost the essential point, is that loneliness. Besides the benefit of serving God with a network of community, besides the ways mutually everyone would help each other and really build these strong bonds, because of course there is such a sense of family among all Noachides. Also, I think, and this is a very important point, I think a community will be very helpful in bringing other people to become Noachides. Like the more infrastructure you have, the more strength you have, the more you're able to draw other people in, because it's not just you're a random person with interesting ideas that might or might not be listened to, that might or might not be heard by other people. But no, this is a whole community. If you would enter a community where you would see the beauty of people as a group living a godly life, it's much stronger impact And if it's just an individual here, an individual there, because that would seem like a scarier choice. Like what if I jump ship, if I come on board, like, so then I'm also going to be sort of alone and different than everyone else in the world, which is very hard for the human animal, for us as humans. It's very hard to envision I'm making a conscious choice to be alone. And when there's a community, it's like, oh, it's not as scary. It's actually safe. It's actually very embracive. So those were my thoughts in terms of how it's so worth creating, however much you can, community. On the most simple level, to have peer support for adults, and very, very, very important for children. Of course, group support is an amazing source of strength. So the question is, how do you do it? Yes, Becca. I don't hear you because you're muted.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you were just about to answer my question, maybe. How do you do it?
That was your question.
That would be my question, yes.
Right. Well, I'm more focused on the needs or the reasons for the motivation, because that was more what I could think about and conceptualize. The how to do it, I'm giving my flimsy answers, and I had really hoped, and this is what we discussed last week, that everyone could sort of put on the table their thoughts on this. So my how to do it, which is, whatever it is I thought starting everyone, whoever wanted to work on this idea of community, is starting with this, virtual connections. Just like in this class, to all Noachides, I know there's a lot of different Noachide groups online, there are various groups. So I thought if people could open themselves up to all those virtual groups there and try to get a bit geographic and start inviting each other over, you have to think realistically how far over means. Like you're saying, you're not about to do an 8-hour drive, but just trying to make a bridge between, remember once hearing 2 women that lived both in a very remote village in Alaska, and they both somehow became Noachides, didn't know of each other at all, and they were both connected to, I think, like asknoah.org or whatever that group is. And then somehow the person there sort of seeing, I don't know what, from he's like, oh my gosh, you're both in Alaska. Like, I don't even think he got to the point of you're both in the same remote village in Alaska, which then they realized, and it was like, wow, how amazing that God put the 2 of them, again, this very, very remote village, but they had each other. So, again, if people, just like last week when we had Ash on, who apologized and said she couldn't come this week, she's out of town or something, but I'm saying, oh, hey, you're not actually so far from Loretto, who's not so far from Danielle. Or I know, of course, there's all these Noachides in Texas. I remember once hearing in Idaho, there was even a school. No, there's loads of them in the Philippines. So really trying to find, because of course, once we're online, we don't know where anybody lives, because that's not very relevant. But if you're building community, not a virtual community, but an actual community, it is relevant to actually try to find out where people live around you, to really even try to create something that would create a geographic, like people putting in their geographic locations or zip codes, and that people could really see how far they are from the nearest Noachide, just to really on a physical level connect. That's how you start, just with one other person and you, and then another person. I think also, so that was one thought of mine, really trying to tap into the virtual community and see how from a virtual community we can create geographic awareness, and then everybody pushing a little bit harder, because wait, if we're an hour away from someone else, like, let's find the convenient hot spot, a half an hour between the 2 of us, for coffee, I remember we had this somebody on the group who was in Springfield. And when I went to Springfield, I made a point of her coming by. Like it felt very special to meet in person. So that was one idea of mine. And another idea again is recognizing that you are surrounded by thousands of potential Noachides. And that's, of course, each person really has that mandate to introduce them, to find them, to see, again, for like, I don't remember how to pronounce her name, of the woman who comes on occasionally, sporadically from Greenland, like Iron Walk or something.
Yes, that was right. You got it right.
That was right. Okay. But I remember I said, how in the world from Greenland did you come to Noachide? And she said, well, her brother-in-law in Canada had these ideas, however, he found them and he spoke to her about them. And then she and her husband, well, I think they used to be sort of like evangelical Christians. Like it really, I don't know if they're evangelical, but like missionaries type Christians. And it really like resonated. Now, maybe that brother-in-law spoke to 20 other people that it doesn't resonate. But he spoke to them and it did resonate. And then they went their walk. So really, really understanding that if you really want to build community, you really have to scout out your neighbors. You really have to really, really, really look at people. And again, you don't want to make judgments. Who's more spiritually open? Would be more likely, who are we to know? You just sort of have to plant seeds and see where they're going to flower. Just imagine you're throwing seeds all over your garden and some flower in unexpected places. So really, really, with that eye to build a community, reaching out to people around you and trying to help them walk this road, trying to help them on their journey. So now there's another person that lives near you. Now there's another person that lives near you. It happens. And again, especially I was thinking for people that have children, that to me is the most important goal that I could see, the most practically important. I mean, it's all important. Everything I said is true. But for people that do have children, that idea of creating schools for children will be so important because there's so much garbage in that world of ours that's there that we all interface with, but it's nice to protect children from it. And it's also nice to give them so there's a protecting them from the negative, but there's also giving them a lot of the godly. And, they're both very, very important, like a child is so vulnerable, it's so open. So when a child is like if a child's in a public school environment and there's just so much being said there, it's just the norm. Nobody's trying to do anything wrong. And then it gets into their system and they start thinking about things or asking questions or not asking questions, making assumptions. So there's a lot of negativity you'd like them not to absorb. And there's also a lot of godly you'd like them to take in, you like them to be surrounded by, you like them to be taught. And imagine that vision of a Noachide school. That sounds like, wow. So what does it take to make it? A few committed families. That's all it takes. A few committed families. 3 families, maybe it's 4 families, maybe it's 5 families, maybe it's 6 families. Committed families. And then you have an option that is actually a viable option. The school doesn't have to start off with 100 kids. School could be 5 kids. It's a class. It's a group of kids that are being taught and learning and being protected and being given a lot of godliness. And that would be a very, 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 very beautiful vision and a very small little level, but so significant of a Noachide community. So those were some of my thoughts. Anyone else? I mean, we did ask everyone to think about it and no one has any copyright on this. So anybody with their thoughts? Becca?
Okay, so yeah, this is something that has just really been on my mind because I like to have that just little bit of holiness one day a week, you know, Shabbat. I don't do it like the Jews do. But I have to have that little bit of holiness. And there are online options and stuff like that. Um, but I'm just wondering if I could reach out to people in the community, just put a feeler out there to start with, and just maybe come from the angle of people that are a little disillusioned with the church, you know, and maybe they don't feel quite like they belong there, you know, but maybe they don't know where they belong yet. And maybe if I could put it out there, where can we just get together and read Psalms, pray, you know, and I don't know, start out just very basic, very simple. Leave your doctrine at the door. I don't want to hear it, you know, kind of thing. It's like we're not doing doctrine. You know, we're not Pentecost, we're not Baptist, we're not any of that. We're just trying to be holy here. And start out that way, just very basic, and see maybe where it goes from there. Um, because it is hard. I want that holiness, you know, and it's hard for me to know where to start, but I also, my thoughts snowball. So I'm like, okay, well, what if I get this stuff started? What if I get it? What if I hear from a few people and they're like, oh, I love the idea, you know, so where are we going to meet? What time? You know, and this, and
You're
then
saying you would network like with your friends?
um I don't really have any.
Okay.
All of my friends go to church on either Saturday or Sunday, and they believe in things that I don't believe in anymore.
So who, I like the idea. Who are you going to network to put out this concept to?
I was just going to like maybe put an ad in the paper.
Oh, like to put out a flyer, to put out an ad.
Yeah, or a little
Like you're
flyer.
making a
Becca, do
a
you-
non-denominational prayer group.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Do you have like a Facebook neighborhood group? I know a lot of people have like neighborhood groups on Facebook or Nextdoor. Or you could post there. That's like a free way to.
Really?
Yeah. My husband's been talking about doing that for some time.
You're saying the same idea Becca's saying, like post on like a
Yes.
Facebook
Yes.
neighborhood group.
Yep.
And
Come
over for
Nextdoor.
prayer and cookies, prayer and
Yes,
coffee.
exactly.
Psalms, you know, just very like
Exactly.
non-denominational, not using the word Noahide and not using anything else either.
Yep.
We're just here to pray together to God.
100%. Yep.
Just
I think that's such a beautiful idea, because you know what? You only need one person to respond.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you have
Yeah.
one person, and then you have someone else, and you
Yeah.
never know, like you're saying about snowballing, you never know like where it's going to lead to and who's going to be that one. Just like when Chabad starts, you know, Chag, you know, my son and daughter-in-law, they went to Springfield, Illinois. Officially there's like almost no Jews in Springfield. Officially there's 1,000 Jews in the whole city, you know, like, but they go and they're assuming there are many, you know, there's Jews hidden all over the place and whatever. How are they going to find them? They'll find them. You know, obviously they do whatever they can to find them, but you know, one way or another, they'll find them. It's, you know, obviously they could do some things more, you know, as time goes on, more and more to find them, but it starts off with one.
Well, and I also wondered, well, what if, you know, eventually people decide, you know, after starting out basic, what if they decide, you know, I want something more. I want to maybe even go on into Judaism. What if we can maybe help build the Jewish community? You know, even if I can't be one myself, you know, maybe somebody else can. maybe they can go on and build the Jewish community even. But even if I don't, at least maybe I can help spread some holiness in this area. I mean, it's not like people don't already feel like they're being holy, because there's like a church on every block here. But I almost feel like maybe there's some people, I know that there has to be some people out there that are a little disillusioned with the religion, with Christianity, and they don't feel like they fit in. So I thought, well, maybe if
And
I offer
yeah,
that.
and like going to like a house of prayer or something for a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable with that. So, and if
Yes,
you don't feel comfortable with someone being in your house, I mean, do you have like a patio or a deck, or is there like an outside coffee shop near your house
what there is we live in
or a park?
a senior slash disabled apartment building, and it has a community room that you can reserve in it.
Oh, there you go.
Several of the churches actually reserve it and hold church services in there. But what if maybe I put up a note, and see if maybe I can reserve it for just a casual prayer group,
Prayer
you
circle.
prayer circle, non-denominational, don't want to hear, all of that stuff. We're just talking to God here. That's kind of the way
I
I
think
want
that's a
to.
beautiful idea. I think that's a beautiful starting and impetus, because again, you never know who's going to respond. And then when that person responds, give them time. It's not going to happen day one, but then they're going to bring a friend. Just like right now, I came back from Springfield. So it was very beautiful. One of the men there that's very close to my son over these years that he's been in Springfield. So my son just recently, within this past year, he started, he got a storefront, so he has a synagogue. And then in the summer, they dedicated a Torah scroll, and they got, all the paraphernalia of the Torah scroll, the cover and the pointer and the ark, lots of things. And then this man who's, my son started now having services every week, which was, hard, in Jewish law, you have to have at least 10 males, 13 and above, 10 Jewish males to make a quorum, to make a prayer meeting. And it was a little bit of challenging in Springfield, Illinois, but he's really been doing it every week, which is miraculous. And one of his regulars was so into it, he reached out to a friend of his, a very nice non-Jewish man, who's a wood carver, and he made for them a beautiful, what is this called? Like a beautiful wooden piece where they have down all the numbers of the page. So my son can flip the numbers so you can see exactly what page are you on in the prayer book, because that's challenging sometimes. So it's, so here was this Jewish man that my son has had this relationship to for a number of years, and now is so dedicated to the synagogue that he got his friend, a very nice non-Jewish man, to make this beautiful wooden piece to enhance the beauty of the synagogue and the functionality of it, because everyone can know what page you're on with much more ease than my son had before. So my son had something before that was like, did not work very well, and definitely was not beautiful. And there's this beautiful piece that works so well. Meaning, what I'm saying by my long-winded story is, it takes time when someone's committed enough and connected enough and feels deeply enough that they're going to reach out to someone else, but they will, so you start off and you put like Daniela saying, free Facebook neighborhood. I don't know anything about Facebook, but Facebook neighborhood notice, give them the time and the date you're reserving your rec room. So you don't have to pay for that either. That's awesome. And then just have Psalms. Photocopy some Psalms, everyone can play together. I do something not exactly the same, but it could become the same. A woman asked me to do this. So every Sabbath, every Saturday, I have 2 women that come to my home, It's deliberately small. This is a sort of different concept, but it's a prayer. We call it a prayer circle, and we pray for each other.
Wonderful.
And everyone like puts out what they want people to pray for them for this coming week. And that's why we don't have it too big, because it's hard to remember. But like 3 people we can handle. So we have, each one of us have 2 other people we got to remember what they are loading on us. And it's really such a beautiful healing energy. And it's like it says, I'm doing it because I was asked to do it, whatever, but I feel the power of the group. I feel the power of the bonds, and it becomes very, very, a few weeks into it, become very loving bonds. When you're all praying for each other all week. In other words, we meet once a week to pray, but then the whole week we have the responsibility to pray for each other. So you could even go in that direction, maybe. See how
Yeah.
it goes. Of
I-
like everyone putting out, maybe not the first time, maybe second time, third time, feel safe, just putting out things that the whole group could pray for each other. Again, just prayer, meaning turning to God with the Psalms, nothing else. God, the Psalms, and you guys. And
Right.
it makes a lot of bonds between the people.
Now, most people here are very, very steeped in their habits of saying in
Right. I
after
know.
prayer. And it's like,
But then those people probably aren't going to come. So
yeah, so I'm just wondering how I would word that, because I want to be diplomatic, but I also want it to be clear too, that, so I don't want people coming thinking, because there are non-denominational Christian churches, and, they tend to be more charismatic in nature, and, and so they're, laying on of the hands and in so-and-so's name, da, 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 da. And so if I say non-denominational,
they might view it as Christian non-denominational.
yes. So I have to find a way of saying this is a whole different animal here. This is just starting from complete scratch, going clear back to the beginning before.
Right. Prayer circle, just us and God.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'll find a way somehow.
I think it's wonderful. And I think if you find 1 woman, 2 people that join, that's great. And just build the connection. And then there'll be a 3rd, and then there'll be a 4th. Give it time. It's a great idea. Sally, did you have any thoughts on this?
Okay, can you hear me?
I do.
Yes.
I was just thinking about, I don't know what that woman's name is. I'm so bad with names that was just talking.
Becca?
Okay.
Yes, Becca, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I
No
forget lots of stuff these days. Anyway, somehow to qualify it by saying, praying to the one true God, instead of saying, just prayer circle.
Or to maybe praying directly to the Father. I mean, people will know, they know him as the Father, the head in those circles. Maybe if I just say directly to, something like that. I don't know. I will. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm so.
I'm in Chicago. Chicago, you wouldn't have that issue because people aren't so devoutly Christian here, but I understand where you are, small town America, that you have a lot of devout people.
And they are so devout.
Yes, you understand, Sally.
Sally, you're also
Yes,
from
I
a
do.
small
I'm in the
town?
same.
We're
same
in
boat.
How close geographically are the 2 of you?
Oh, I'm in Missouri. I think she's down south.
Right.
I'm in Texas, east.
Texas, you're in Texas, right?
Uh-huh.
Right, but it's also small towns, you're saying, in a small town in Texas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have the same issue. Small town America is very devout.
Yes. But I still, sometimes I'm feeling a little bit rowdy or rebellious, and I will say some things that people won't really comment on. People are so good to me and so nice to me. And I think it's because, the cancer and all. So they don't really ever say bad things to me, but I do comment a lot, even when ministers, preachers, say stuff. I will really hone in on. I can't remember the verse, but something about your hands, the work of your hands.
Mhm.
And so, I just reinforce that, you see, we've got to do. This is the work of our hands.
Yes. Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
It's true. Let them think. It's absolutely true.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely. 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 So Becca, if your success is gonna spur on everyone else to go to do the same road, so you gotta do it and you gotta be successful and you gotta share it with everyone else. That we should pray for you. Dixie, what about you? Dixie? You're muted. I don't know if Dixie is in a talking situation now, because she's muted and not responding. Dixie, can you respond? All right. Well, Dixie, I guess, cannot. And Danielle, I think, lost service. She said she was traveling, so she didn't think she'd be able to maintain her service. And I guess she maintained it exactly as long as God wanted her to. And then it stopped. So Becca has a job assignment. Sally, is there something you think you could do along those lines, or what makes sense in your world?
I am into the virtual groups a
Mhm.
lot.
Okay.
I don't know a soul.
That's so funny. I thought there's so many Noachides in Texas.
I guess not in East Texas, Northeast.
Spread out.
Yeah.
You're in Northeast Texas. I know there are
Yes.
many, many Noachides in Texas. That's like the largest place I know in America. If I would think in America of Noachides, like the most of them, I think Texas. There are a lot that have come on this class that are from Texas. Are you connected to any of them?
No, I guess I'm not. Well, maybe so. There's who is it that has to not talk? Do you know?
Sylvia Singer, and I don't know,
Yes.
Jono Vandor,
Mm-mm.
and but now Nativ has a lot of people from Texas.
Yes, yes,
Um,
they do.
The team.
no,
Nativ.
Nativ with a V at the end. V as in Victor.
Oh yeah, I've seen them advertising a lot lately. Is that like a television show?
No, it's like a Noahide group. Sherry, I think Sherry Lacrosse is in Texas.
Rod
I think
Bryant.
Katie's in Texas, Lisa's in Texas, I think Nancy's in Texas.
There's a bunch of Texans in there. There is one in there from Missouri, but she lives in St. Louis.
That's far from you.
Missouri is just, it's really, really a Christian stronghold. Very much. We do have Messianics, but that's still not too terribly far removed, although they feel like they are, but it's not.
I understand. Sally,
Yes.
my phone just died as I was trying to look it up for you, but I know a number of them. I think a lot of them are in Texas. Maybe it's worthwhile reaching out to Danielle. You have her Facebook or number or way to reach her?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Maybe ask her who because she would remember more than me, who's in Texas from just the people who have come on this class. I know there's a lot of people there from Texas. I feel like God sprinkles a little fairy dust on Texas or something. So,
Yeah.
They actually have a pretty strong group. That's the strongest community I know is a community in Texas. And I think Becca's right. I think they are connected to Nativ.
Mostly in Nativ, yes.
I
Right.
will, I'll reach out and just say, who lives near me and tell them
Yeah.
where I live.
Yeah,
and see if I can't find people.
especially if you have an access to the Nativ group. I think they are a lot in the Nativ group. I think Becca's right. And you might find someone who's not so far
That
from
would be
you.
so cool.
That would
I'd
be
love
so
that.
cool. Yeah, I know, because
Yeah.
again, I don't know if they're north, south, west, or east in Texas,
Right.
but I know they're in Texas.
Good, good.
And that'd be
I'll
wonderful.
try and find somebody. Yep.
Rod is based in Humble, Texas.
In where?
Humble, Humble.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And but there's different ones scattered around Texas, and they all have a pretty tight-knit group there.
I would love that. I would
Yeah.
love that.
I know they get together for Passover. I know, remember some of the class saying she was making a Passover meal for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're anywhere near you. I don't know how, I know Texas is a big
Well, I
state.
would go, an hour and a half if it was some neat conference or something. I would drive a couple hours. So
Yeah, I can't do that, but I think my best bet is to beat the bushes around here.
Yeah, I think what you said, Becca, is good for you. And I think what Sally's saying makes sense. If you
For her.
have a link or a way to get onto Nativ, give your address and say, who lives near me?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, they have classes almost every day. I've been to some of them. I mean, they have them on Sunday, they have them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Friday and Saturday is the only time they don't do anything. Saturdays, this other group, Noahide Nations, I think, has a group going, but it's just kind of not really, it's not my speed.
Yeah.
I am so I know Hashem is calling me to start something here, but I am like Moshe, and I'm just like, I can't do this. You're talking to the wrong person. I'm a poor little old grandma in, this little apartment. What am I gonna do? So, but
Well, you figured it out. You have a rec room at your disposal. You figured it all out.
yes,
Danielle said you don't even have to spend money on advertising. Just put it on your Facebook. Find
right.
out what Facebook neighborhood is and work on it.
So I will do this.
So you found the location, you found the venue, you found the means of reaching out. It's all coming together.
It's coming together now.
Well,
Just
I would be very excited, Sally, if you reported that you found somebody near enough that you guys met.
I would love
remember
that. too.
someone, I don't remember who, I'm so bad with names. Somebody was in Colorado when she visited Dixie. It was so nice. Like, I think she's actually from Texas. For some reason, they were in the summer in Colorado, and I don't think Dixie was, I think I'm sure it was an hour or two drive. But she came to visit Dixie. It was so nice that the two of them met.
That's nice. Yep.
Because this is, again, this goes back to that idea of community and the support community gives, and
Mhm.
it's worth pushing for, because it will help. It will help
Yeah.
everyone on their journey when they know they're not in it alone.
what time is it?
We're gonna end now. It's about 8:30 my time. Everyone's different time zone. So we're gonna end now on this point. So Becca, we want a happy report next week that you started. And Sally, I hope to also hear good news from you next week. Okay, the truth is you don't have to wait for next week. If you're on
That
the
sounds
WhatsApp
great.
group, just post up your successes.
Okay.
We'll be very, very happy to read them and know that steps are being taken to conquer East Texas and Missouri. All right. Take care. We have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful week. Thank you so much for
Shavua.
joining. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good week. God
Thank
bless.
you.
Healthy week. We should feel God in our lives.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining.